At 28, when I was looking at all the rungs of the ladder ahead of me and what you're told you want to aspire to, I just saw people with less hair and more stress. And so I'd wanted to take some time to travel, see the world before I have to quote unquote settle down. And it was only once I'd started traveling that I soon realized that I never wanted to return back to corporate, never wanted to have a manager, never wanted to work from an office again. Once you broke out of freedom, you'll do anything you can to keep on to that.
Are you ready for the biggest pension and inheritance tax shake-up ever? Join our free live webinar on Tuesday, the 11th of November, to discover how the new rules could affect your family's wealth and the steps you can take now to protect it. From April 2027, major changes to inheritance tax on pensions will come into force. Changes that could leave thousands of families facing unexpected tax bills on money they thought was safe. In this live online session, WealthBuilders founder Kevin Whelan and SaaS director Paul Brooks will explain what's changing, who will be affected, and how to build a strategy that protects your pension and preserves more of your wealth for your loved ones. If you have a pension and you have a family, you need to take notice. Click on the link in the show notes or head now to www.wealthbuilders.co.uk/IHT webinar to secure your place. So today I'm joined by She Scales founder and sales coach, Sarah Buckland, who's helped her clients generate over £2.5 million in sales. And Sarah shares her journey from corporate sales in London to running a thriving online business that empowers women to scale their offers, income and impact. And we're going to dive into the key steps to go from startup to six figures, how to overcome confidence barriers, and why building recurring income is the real path to financial freedom. So welcome, Sarah. How are you?
Thank you. An awesome introduction. I'm really, really good. Thank you. How are you?
Excellent today. Thank you. So let's start off. Tell us quickly what your business She Scales does and who is it for?
Amazing. So She Scales is a sales training company that helps women, and not all women, to be able to start, grow and scale using online and social media so that they can attract, assign clients using online methods and really grow a profitable online business that allows them the freedom to be able to sign clients wherever they are in the world.
Fantastic. And when did you start the business?
It was during lockdown, actually, 2020, the September.
All right. So I'm sure we'll hear a little bit more about the situation that led to that. But whilst you predominantly work with women, I think it's fair to say that much of what we'll be discussing today is relevant for anybody, right, who's either starting or growing a business. And we're going to be focusing on that sort of magical £100,000 turnover. That's a real milestone for many people who are starting out in business. And I know you help people go way beyond that as well. But that's where we'll be focusing today. So let's start off. And you walked away from a successful sales career in London. And what made you take that leap?
I did. So working in the corporate rat race, as they call it. And don't get me wrong, I'm not going to slam corporate. I really liked my job. I really liked my team. I worked for a really cool company and I really loved that time in my life and I'm very grateful for it. But at 28, when I was looking at all the rungs of the ladder ahead of me and what you're told you want to aspire to, I just saw people with less hair and more stress. And I was like, this doesn't seem great for me, to be honest. And so I'd wanted to take some time to travel because I thought, if this is what we're supposed to all want, then I'm just going to take some time out, travel, see the world before I have to quote unquote settle down. And it was only once I'd saved up and started traveling that I soon realized that I never wanted to return back to corporate, never wanted to have a manager, never wanted to work from an office again. I think once you broke out of freedom, you'll do anything you can to keep on to that because you just see the world very differently. So there was no going back after that point.
Yeah, and that's an important thing for you, right? We always say about start with why and think about, what does the end goal look like? And for you, it's very much freedom and freedom to travel, freedom to work from anywhere. And how easy was it to sort of build the business around those core values?
So I'd actually done all my travels and just got back before COVID. So all of a sudden we found ourselves in lockdown. So travel was banned. So I was building something that I had the vision for, but I had no way of knowing if it would work for a good time. And so I was probably about a year and a half into business, building the vision. And I'd started to build runway, get traction, and things were going well. But travel was still quite iffy. And so I just got to a point of, I have to try. I don't know if it's all going to work, but I have to go. And so I just booked a one-way ticket to Bali. The cliche. Didn't try it out somewhere local, similar time zone. Just booked a one-way ticket to Bali just to go see if I could do it. No way of knowing if I could, but I'd built the business to be, number one, scalable, so that I could serve people in limited amount of time and still have time flexibility to allow for the time zone difference. So that was the key thing whilst I figured out my new routine and a new culture and all of this. So I'd say it wasn't easy. None of entrepreneurship is easy. But when you hold the vision for what's important to you, that's more important than any obstacle that comes your way.
There's a lot of people, I'm sure some who are listening right now, Sarah, who are in the corporate world or working 9 to 5. They're in a job. They would love to have their own business. They perhaps have an idea. Perhaps they're already a solopreneur. They're building something on the side. But there's quite a big jump, isn't there, from going from that, monthly paycheck to suddenly relying on sales and generating your own income. What would be your advice for people, because some people, they just go for it all in, they take the leap of faith, but that can have risk, especially if you've got a family and you've got bills and you've got mortgages and you don't want to put, added risk and stress on yourself. So how do you navigate that? How do you work with your clients?
Amazing. So I would say for someone that's still in the 9 to 5, start getting clients and bringing in income and get proof of your service before taking the leap. I was fortunate that, and I get that not a lot of people have this reality, but where I just come back from travels, I was staying with family. So when everything closed down, I got my old job back temporarily. So for a short while, I'd got income with no real expenditure. So I'd got time to figure things out. So I get that was a sweet pocket of time for me that allowed that I could go all in from day one with no savings behind me. And so it meant, because either I was going to go all in from day one and make it work, or the plan B was have to get another job and learn a new team, new company, new product to sell, and all the rest of it. And I just wasn't available for that. So I chose to go all in from day one and just start marketing myself, start getting online, start making videos and telling people what I could do and how I could help them, start getting clients. And so I was able to build up an income from that first month of marketing. Would I advise that same strategy to other people who had a family, for example? Different scenario. No, because nobody was relying on me other than me. So I think everyone's got different circumstances, but for most people, I would say aim to get clients and start bringing in an income and getting proof of your service and getting feedback and testing that and refining that before quitting your main income source and going all in.
Yeah, I would echo that from my own experiences when I quit my 9 to 5 and started up my own business, and I had some savings, but it's amazing how quickly those savings dwindle, right? And yeah, that can be a trap as well that people can fall into, thinking, okay, well, I've got a buffer, but that buffer can disappear. And also it takes a bit of the pressure off actually having to go out and make the sales, because you're like, okay, I know I've got that kind of backup.
That was a level of urgency that I had because I'd chosen to go all in on day one. It had to work because I didn't want plan B. So it meant showing up on all the days where I didn't know if I was doing something wrong or if things weren't going how I want them to go. I was showing up and marketing myself and getting out there and having conversations anyway because it needed to work.
Now, something interesting as well is actually in those early stages, you actually retrained in design, didn't you? Before returning, before kind of refinding your real strength, which of course is sales. And, again, is that something you see quite often where people just want to break away so much that they go off in a different direction that actually isn't the right direction for them? So it's all about knowing yourself, isn't it?
It is. And I'd done the quizzes of where are your skills before you decide what to go and start a business in, because I knew I wanted to start an online business. So it was just a case of what do I offer? And the main skill set for me, which was sales, wasn't coming through. Well, it was. I knew that sales was a skill, but sales to me was picking up the phone and calling people. And so for me that wanted to travel, I didn't see how that could work for me. So then I was thinking, right, how can I retrain into something that will work with the lifestyle that I aspire to have? And so that's where I'd looked at graphic design and branding and identity services and thought, right, I'll do that instead. So I'd spent that first summer of COVID on Skillshare, on YouTube, retraining. And that was what I started the business in. And yeah, as you say, it was only 6 months of doing, quote unquote, the wrong thing that it taught me valuable skills, and that's what I built my audience with, and that's what I built my community with. But 6 months in, realized that I was not doing the right thing. That skill set wasn't a good fit for my personality. I'm the extrovert. I need a lot of people around. I'm used to working on a busy sales floor. So to go from all of that vibrancy to long hours of just you and the laptop and very little customer interaction, I was like, this is not I can't build a business that isn't aligned with me. So other people considering that, I'd say, yes, be aware of where your skill sets are, but also be open to different ways of working. When people come into me saying, can you teach me what you know? I kicked myself that wasn't obvious to me from the start. And I felt like I'd wasted 6 months because that was such an obvious thing to do. But during that time, not only had I learned really good other skills that still help me to this day, but that's what I'd built my audience with and built trust with. And people still knew me as a person, even though my skill set was going to change. So I'd say be prepared to do something wrong on your path to finding the right thing.
Yeah. And when you do find your flow, it is literally, the opposite of trying to row upstream against the current, where it feels hard and difficult, to just literally going with the flow and knowing that you're great at what you're doing. Others are commenting that you've got, this skill. And when did the penny drop then for you? When you, as you say, you sort of spent 6 months doing the wrong thing. Was there any particular thing that made you suddenly realize, hang on a minute, I've got to change?
I was already feeling something's not right. The analogy of the square peg in the circle hole. I was feeling that because I knew that this was new to me and I expected that it would be hard and there'd be a learning curve. But when I was 6 months in and it still wasn't feeling any easier, I was like, oh, something isn't aligned here and I'm not enjoying the way that I'm working. My average week, my weekly routine wasn't serving me. And I was like, okay, well, this already isn't feeling good. Do I need to upskill? Do I need to just get a business coach? Do I need to learn something else on top? What's not working? At the same time because it was working, I was still getting clients. I just wasn't happy in the way that I was working. But at the same time, I'd made some friends who were other designers on Instagram, and they were coming to me saying, how are you getting these clients? Because they were looking at what I was charging, and I was charging far more than they were because of my business background. So even though they were technically better in the skill, I was getting more clients for better pricing and building an easier business. And so they were coming to me saying, how are you doing what you're doing? And I was like, oh, it's my sales and business background. And I'd helped a few clients, helped a few friends, just giving them a few voice notes of free advice, just in DMs. And someone messaged me saying, Sarah, your free advice has already helped my business so much that if you ever go into teaching this stuff, I will happily be your first paying client. And that was like a light bulb moment for me. I was like, oh, why didn't I think of that? And so I considered doing a little bit of, this consultancy on the side whilst having the brand design clients that I'd built the business from. But I very quickly was like, no, here's where my passion is. And I'm not going to be able to juggle both, because as soon as I start talking about this thing that lights me up, that I'm really good at, these clients are going to get a really bad experience. So I just need to go whole hog, as in do a full pivot and not try and do both services at once. So yeah, quite quickly after that conversation, I pivoted the whole business to be sales coaching and consultancy.
One thing stood out for me that you said there is about lighting you up. And I think you've got to feel that, haven't you? You've got to feel that energy, that fire, that excitement. And when you do, that's when you become unstoppable. And that's a nice sort of lead on, I think, to what I'm sure everyone's waiting to find out, which is the path to 100K. So let's get into some of these tips. How did you find that journey? Let me ask you just to begin, that journey for yourself from that 0 to 100K. The first time you did that, was that something that you had to learn? Did you have a formula you were following to get there yourself?
I didn't. I was figuring it all out as I went, because it was such a different way of building the business to the way that I knew sales, because I'd done corporate sales, big contracts, big companies, whereas this, all of a sudden I was a solopreneur, just showing up, making videos on Instagram and just trying to help as many people as I could. And so, no, I joined a 3-month business coaching program that helped me a little bit with the structure, but a lot of it was just freestyle, going with momentum, a little bit of just throw it all at the wall and see what happens. But when I was coaching with other people, I was noticing that there needed, other than the sales information that people were asking me for, they were coming to me for just the strategy, but there were so many other pieces that needed to be in place in order for the strategy to work. So that's where I found that I'd be speaking, helping people with their offers and helping people with their marketing and helping people with their mindset and all these other pieces that needed to be in place in order for the sales strategies to work that I was giving them. So it ended up being a wider service and me realizing like, oh, okay, these core bits need to be in place in order for this one to really land. So I'd started to build this formula.
Now, on Wealth Talk, we talk about the difference between sort of earned income and asset income. And in order to achieve financial independence, it's about building assets. And that's something that I know you now have done to create recurring income streams. But at that early stage, am I right to think that most of that was time for money consulting fees? Yeah. And that I think that's okay at the beginning, isn't it? Because you have to learn your trade and, you've got to become the expert. And only once you've got that foundation can you then start to build different layers of products and services and memberships on top of that.
Yeah, 100%. Because there's the two parts there, as in I wasn't even on my own financial education journey at that point. I was freshly out of the London rat race. And so I just didn't know a lot about money at all. I knew sales, so I knew how to get money, but I hadn't yet started the wider reading and my wider financial education on that side. So it was all time for money. And to be honest, when you're early in business, then there needs to be a good amount of clients and repetition for you to build up that reputation and build trust before you go into creating assets. So I do think that is the right process to go down. Really build that trust, build that audience, build proof of not just I say that I can do these things, but like here are the results before you then go in to start creating assets and things that can work long time for a lot of people.
So for founders who are stuck around the early stage mark, what's the biggest reason they're not growing faster, do you think?
In a lot of cases, it's just wanting to bury their head in the sand and get away from sales. I think it's partly what is their sales strategy. A lot of people still have a really old school mindset around sales because we were brought up with the likes of Matilda and the car salesman's dad, And so it's only when people can really get on board with sales and see it as every time I sell, I serve. And it's really coming from a place of service. And that every time, whether you're someone that's super visible on Instagram, for example, whether you're someone that's marketing themselves on LinkedIn, whether you're sending emails, every time you are selling to someone, you are giving them the opportunity for you to help them. So it's seeing that real switch of the more that you sell, the more people you can help. And so it's partly mindset, partly strategy.
I guess a lot of psychology wrapped up into this, especially if someone who perhaps has never had to do sales in their life. Almost this sort of inferiority, the imposter syndrome, these things where you can help someone, but you just feel awkward about asking for that exchange of money. How do you overcome that?
Offer something that's so good that the money seems like a fraction of the value that you're giving. If you know, and this is where it goes back to doing something that really lights you up and you're really passionate and you're really good at it, if you know that what you're giving is really going to help this person, then whatever you're asking for, if you feel like it's priced well, and pricing is a whole nother conversation, but if you know that what you're giving to someone is really going to help them and that they'd be crazy to walk away from it, why wouldn't you sell? Why would you want to keep this gift to yourself? And whether it's knowledge, whether it's a service, whether it's a product, if you know that that can do good in the world, why wouldn't you want to go and sell it?
Now, you've developed your own intellectual property, which is one of our 7 pillars of wealth, and you've developed the 6 steps to 6 figures framework. So I'd love it if you could just run through that. I think our listeners would benefit from that greatly.
Yeah. Awesome. So step number 1 is mindset, because this is the most powerful piece. There's no amount of strategy that can outwork a crappy mindset. There's plenty of books on strategy. There's so much strategy out there in the world, and all of them work for some people. So yes, we can talk about strategy in the later of the 6 steps, but this core mindset piece and how you continually keep yourself mindset strong, you surround yourself with good people, you get inside activating conversations, you continually work on movement and doing the things that make you feel good and that fill your cup up every single day. are so important, because there's going to be challenge. There's going to be, fires that come up. There's going to be challenging client situations. There could be things that happen out of your control that you need to deal with all of the time. And so how you look after your mental health, emotional health, spiritual health is so important as you go on in your business journey. So number one is mindset. Number two is what I say, your foundations. So this is, what is your core offer? This might be your offer suite for some of you. If you've got a different product suite, like a low ticket offer, mid ticket offer, high ticket offer. For some of you that are just starting out, maybe it's just your main signature offer, your main focus point. But it's getting really, really clear in who is your ideal client, exactly what are they looking for you, and exactly how does your main offer solve their problem. And this needs to be something that is a market need that people are actively searching for. They're actively trying to find a solution for this, and it solves their problem well, not just something that's a little bit of a change, but a significant change, so that they're going to want to come and invest in you as someone that helps, move them along in their journey. So it's that ideal client and being really, really specific on who that is and exactly how you help them. Number three is positioning. So this is where you sit in the marketplace. So of all the people that do what you do, how are you positioning yourself? Are you someone that it wants to be the likable, approachable, sort of lower price point and more accessible for more people? Are you someone that is premium and you're available for either luxury or the high-end market? Are you someone that wants to sit in the middle? So this is you choosing where you want to sit, and then how you communicate that in your messaging and your pricing and how you appear to the market. Number four is marketing. So this is, how are you getting your message out there to the world about who you are, what you do, and how you help people? This is you building know, like, and trust through words, through videos, through visuals, how you're building your online presence so that someone who is Googling either you or what you do can find you and start to A, get to know you, B, get to like you, and C, get to trust you. So that build is, so the know layer piece is, can they see that you are an expert in the thing that you're doing? Can they get to know you as a person, not just the thing that you're doing? And can they get to trust you above and over everybody else that's doing what you're doing, either through testimonials, case studies, relatable stories? And so really get to see, this is the person for me, and then be able to make a qualified buying decision without needing to speak to you on the phone. In this sales process, yes, of course, we can get people on the phone, and phone-based sales will always be the easiest sales. But if you can do really good marketing and give everyone the information that they need through your content, that they need to be able to make a qualified buying decision, they actually don't need to speak to you on the phone. That's the plus point of marketing. And so that fifth point then is sales. So your marketing is creating and capturing interest and nurturing people who, if they've got interest, these are potentially really good fit clients for you, potentially people who your offer would be a really good fit for. They've come into your world. They're sussing you out, they're getting to know you. How then are you taking that person from either follower to client or interested to paying client? So those are your sales methods. This could be phone calls, this could be voice notes in DMs, this could be quick back and forwards conversation, it could be a payment checkout, it could be a sales page with a link. So there's various ways of capturing that interest and turning it into cash flow. And then that last part then on number 6 is scale. Because once you've got this process down, you know your ideal client really well, you're positioned well in the market, you're consistently attracting and converting clients, you've got a good sales process. Once that cash flow is coming through and you're going again and again and again, building momentum, then you can start to build scale. So that is the system, like how are you systemizing this process to keep more momentum coming through? And then you can start to bring in scalable offers or digital offers and things that free up your time, additional things that you can sell that aren't your time. So those are my 6 steps to 6 figures.
Thank you for sharing that. And online is an area where you've really excelled, and building profile and, your branding, your website, everything looks really great. That's obviously a skill that you've got.
Which hilariously was the design skill that
yeah, right. Well, it's paid off. It obviously was a worthwhile 6 months there. Important for you is that attraction of clients online, and then that nurturing through like DMs, so direct messaging through Instagram, or maybe you can tell us which platforms specifically work well for you.
Yeah, so I'm mainly Instagram. I didn't start growing on LinkedIn until about a year ago and reactivating my old, sales profile that I'd had for ages. But majority of my business come through Instagram. And so my purpose with growing on one platform was to become good on that platform before branching out. But from a sales perspective, I wanted my content to really get over who I am and how I can help people and do as much of the sales process as possible, because I knew that I wanted to be traveling a lot. And so I didn't want to be filling my diary with a lot of sales calls. So for me, it was like the freedom that I was looking to create. I knew if I can get my content doing more of the selling piece for me, so that the closing conversation can just be answer a couple of questions and see if it's a good fit or not. And so, it was more about building the business in line with the freedom that I desired to have. So it was focus in one place, get good at that place before branching out, but build a really solid presence that someone can go find me, whether they're Googling online, they'll come across my social media, sometimes before my website, and they'll be able to get everything that they need to know to make a qualified buying decision without needing to speak to me. If they want to speak to me, that's absolutely fine. But in most cases, people can find exactly what it is, what I'm like as a person. They'll see some content that's more humorous and some that's more authoritative or educational, really get to know me as a person, and then see how we can work together going forwards. So your online presence can do all of the selling for you.
And that's amazing, because we're not talking about sort of, £29 products here. We're talking about thousands of pounds worth of, training and memberships and courses, aren't we? You mentioned as well about sort of getting on the phones, and phone perhaps is a bit more of an old school method these days, right? But Zoom certainly is something that we're all pretty familiar with. The difference between sort of speaking to someone on the phone or speaking to someone face to face like we are now with video, where you can see, how important is that difference of being able to see someone? And is that sort of part of what you would train and help people with?
Huge, because we get so much more information from body language than we do from just voice. So where I'd been in sales, obviously we were on the phones all the time, not this long prior to Zoom. And so I used to have to be able to understand who someone's personality type was just from the way that they answered the phone. And so awesome skill to have to be able to learn. But what it's meant is that you get so much more visuals when you can see people. And so that translates into marketing, because the more that you can get yourself out there online and people can build that trust and imagine what it's like to work with you without needing to speak to you, they can get that from your video content. So that the same need to, if you hadn't got an online presence, for example, someone might want to have a sales call so that they can get to know you, speak to you and build trust with you and build rapport in that way. Well, social media takes that away, because they no longer they don't need to build rapport with you, because they can already binge away. So it really has changed my sales process. I don't have any sales calls anymore, because people can find plenty of me online. The occasional people do, and I'm working with more corporates now. So, there's more standard sales process there. But when it comes to individuals, the more that you can get yourself out on video and people can see you, build trust with you, understand your mannerisms, and imagine what it would be like to work with you, that's so much of the sales process done.
Another of your 6 steps there, talked about sort of price point, finding your place in the market. I think it's important, isn't it, for people to think about that when they're starting out, because if they're selling a 10, let's say 10K a month is a target, right? And we know for many of our clients, in terms of recurring income, 10,000 a month is a popular milestone. So if you're selling a £10 product, right, you got to do 1,000 sales of that, compared to if you're selling a £1,000 product, obviously, it's a lot less. How do you help people sort of come up with that price, decide on pricing? Because probably most people should be charging more, that from my experience.
Yeah. And that's something that I wouldn't say I live with regrets, but I started out with such low pricing, and perhaps this is because I'd started on the brand design thing first and thinking, well, I don't know anything in this area yet, and I'm brand new, so I need to start low and sort of work my way up and prove myself. But it meant that I had anchored myself at a low price point and then had to really stretch to get out of that. if I was to go back and redo my journey knowing what I knew now, I would just come in from high ticket pricing from the get-go, especially when I transitioned into sales coaching then, and have something that was much higher ticket because I didn't need to prove myself at that point. And this is the difference between when you're coming out, starting a business when you've got prior experience versus starting something completely new. So yes, 99% of people need to charge more. And so there's the metric of just whacking the price up, but there's the mindset piece and the embodiment piece of, can you hold that level of pricing? Because it's finding the sweet spot between putting up to a level that excites you and maybe makes you feel like a little bit nervous, maybe even gets a little bit of sick in your mouth, as I like to say, but not something that, gives you the complete heebie-jeebies, and that if you've got to say that price point, that it makes you like you can see in your body that you're not comfortable with it. So it's, yeah. I don't like the saying know your worth, but I think in this market, especially when inflation's going up so quickly, your pricing needs to raise, not just in line with your expertise, but every few months, every 6 months, definitely multiple times a year.
So let's talk about this transition from going from self-employed, which many coaches, consultants, trainers, trading time for money initially, and how you've now expanded beyond that to build a business which has got recurring income streams. And how did you go about adding those different layers?
So it started when I'd say my first year of sales coaching and noticing which questions were coming up again and again. So when I was doing just one-to-one work, I'd notice which topics were coming up, and I was just repeating myself over and over because people needed to know this information. So that's where I built my first group program, which was just a 4-week group program. And I ran that a couple of times. I think I ran that 3 times and then built a more advanced, longer program. Even then, so I'd started to build out programs, but I hadn't automated them. I hadn't started filming a load of trainings. It was really testing the market to see what is needed at a grand scale. How can I create something that a lot of people will get value from? And so there was a lot of live testing before I went into create anything that was, like course, membership, anything that was filmed that could live forever, essentially. So I did a lot of live testing first to make sure that, people wanted it, people needed it, and that it could get help for most people. Because you've got a lot of nuance between how people receive information, how they learn, how willing they are to go do the work that's required, different personality types, understanding it in different ways. So I did a lot of live testing first.
Okay. And you've got a membership program now, is that right?
Yeah. So I've got a membership, group program, and a mastermind. So the membership is fully automated, as in there's loads of trainings in there for people, regardless of what stage they're at. And that allows me to then just come and show up for the Q&A. So I can still help people inside, but they can be getting so much more help without me needing to be present. So there's absolutely loads inside the membership, whereas the group program, mastermind, have more live elements.
Yeah. So it's kind of, serving people for, what they need at different stages of their own journey. Okay. Let's talk about offers quickly. What makes a good offer, and how can business owners know if their offer is holding them back?
Awesome. Love this question. So good offer has to have had market research around it. I see so many people going to rush and sell something that they've not actually done any research around, which surprises me. When was the last time, whether you're listening to this and you've got an existing offer, this will be great for you. Whether you're someone that is listening and wanting to create something new, even so, great for you. Have you done market research around this offer? And or if it's someone that this offer has been in place for, have you gone and done new market research for it? Because people change, social media changes, society changes at rocket speed right now. We're seeing things, what was working 6 months ago is already outdated with how much AI is changing things. And so it's really, really important to go and do research with your market to, get people on questionnaires, get people on calls, get people who are a good potential fit for you, and go ask them what it is that they want in line with your skill set. Asking, if I was to create this program, or if you have created something, how do you see this working for you? What questions would you have around something like this? Here's how it works. What do you think of that process? And getting people's real insight either onto what your idea for the offer is or what your existing idea is, and actually go and road test it with people. Do they love it? Do they have questions about it? Do they have objections? If they were going to join something like that, what hesitations would they have? What did they think of the pricing? Because if you've got, 30 to 50 people who absolutely love your offer and are saying, this sounds amazing, and either how can I join, or it's not quite for me, but it sounds really, really good, and I know people that this would be a great fit for, amazing. That then is going to change how you show up to sell it, because not only have you just built a whole list of people who are interested to buy it, but you also know that you've got enough proof around it. So the way that you show up to sell it will be entirely different than if it was just you saying, hey guys, I've had this amazing idea.
I guess how you show up, I've heard you talk before about main character energy. So what exactly does that mean in practice, and how can people start to bring that into the mix?
So main character energy is you showing up as the main character of your life and business. This is you serving yourself so that you can serve everybody else from a place of overflow, not serving everybody else first and then putting yourself last. Because the people who, and I get in the early stage of business, you've got to do quite a lot. So it's very easy to just run yourself into the ground because there's so much to do. And until you've built momentum, there's not a lot of, there's quite a lot of friction. You've not yet built the runway. And so there's a little bit like it's hard in that first year to year and a half, I'd say. For me, that's what I found my most challenging time was in the early stages, because you've not yet built that proof. And so what I found was that I'd just put the business so much ahead of me and that I was serving myself last. And so it got to a point where I was showing up with a less than full or less than happy version of myself. I'd put so much into the business that I just needed to readjust the balance. And that's why the Bali move came in, and I just needed to book this one-way flight. I'm not saying that everybody will get to this point where you're like, right, there needs to be some drastic decision. And this is why I talk about main character energy, is that if you can start to make these changes where you put yourself first and then the business, and you're serving your business before your clients. And so there's this serve yourself before others, put your own oxygen mask on first, and come from a place of wholeness and happiness, because your business will grow so much better because of it. So I needed to get to a place where I was not feeling my best before I took action. That then allowed me to completely change my energy. And from a sales perspective, it meant that I'd gone from do and say the things as I was classically sales trained. It went that when I just went and made myself happy and lived my best life, people started coming to me because of how much better my energy was. And I was like, so it really rebuilt my relationship with sales, as in you will attract more people when you're a better version of you. It doesn't need to be this, I go and get everything. Like, people will want to gravitate to you because you'll be more magnetic.
Interesting. So looking back 5 years now, so congratulations. Many businesses don't last 5 years, as we know. The stats not stacked in our favor, shall I say. The odds are not stacked in our favor. But yeah, just looking back now and reflecting on those 5 years, what would you pull out as just the key learnings, the key sort of, shifting points along the way?
Great question. Honestly, the people around you are so important. I knew coming into business, when they say that phrase of it's not what you know, it's who you know, and your network is your net worth. I was like, no, I don't know anybody, especially starting an online business, and this being in COVID. So people were only just starting to remote work. I didn't know anyone that was working online. I didn't know any entrepreneurs. And so I knew right from the early stages that me finding more people who had the same passions and interests and desired lifestyle as I had would be really, really important for me. Like, loved all my best friends, but it was really important that I needed to find my tribe in this capacity. So I've always prioritized getting into either communities, group programs, masterminds, places. And this was part of the Bali move as well, is wanting to be around more of my people. And through all the the roller coaster of businesses, all the highs and lows, there'll be plenty of challenges along the way, but having my core people there who have been with me either right from the very start, or I've met people through different phases, or I've gone to different places and connected with different people. I think the people that you meet along the way are so much more important than whatever happens to you on the journey, because the journey will be hard at some point, whether it's things that you saw coming, whether it's things that you didn't see coming. And so your support network around you are absolutely pivotal. So that's been one of the most important things for me. The reason why I join masterminds and communities. Yes, it's for knowledge and support from the mentor or coach, but a lot of it is I want to find more of my people, because I've now, over the years, built a community where I could pretty much rock up in any country and there's someone that I know. So I think network is the main one that I would say. And then just an unwavering, unshakable, delusional self-belief. And this might wobble a bit on some days, and this is why your network's important, to be able to mirror it back to you. But having that unwavering, unshakable self-belief, if you've got a really strong vision for what it is that you want to create, your bigger mission, your purpose in this world, what you're here to do, you have got to keep that in the forefront and center, so that when things don't go to plan, or when you're going through a sticky patch, or when something, or you've got a client situation going on, you can hold the vision of so much bigger than this, or I've got so much more purpose in this world, like I'm here to create this much more impact. And to really hold that on the days where, it's easy to hold the good stuff when it's all going hunky-dory, but on the days where there's like a fire going on internally or externally, holding that vision, because that's what will keep, that's sort of your guiding light when things feel a little bit, the boat is rocking.
Yeah. And, looking back to when you were in the corporate world to where you are now, what's your business given you perhaps that you didn't have then? Complete freedom, because back then I'd get paid once a month. I didn't always know what it would be because I had a commission structure, but I knew vaguely the parameters of what it would be. That was always gone at the end of the month, and was very much just living for the moment, and also not a very healthy lifestyle because you're in London. So it's very just like drinks, boozing, after work drinks, whereas not a lot of freedom. I know we had an annual event, and so you could only take time off at certain times of year depending on where you were in relation to that big business priority. Every single year when I was at that company, again, because I loved it a bit too much and maybe I was overly loyal, but I never used my full annual leave entitlement. So every single year there'd be certain things that were carried over that I hadn't used. And so for someone that loved adventures, I wasn't going on anywhere near enough. Whereas now when we fast forward 5 years, I have built not only a business that can pay me every day of the week, not just once a month, but I don't have to ask anybody for time off. I've traveled literally all around the world. I've lived in Bali for 2.5 years. I've been to LA, I've been to Miami. This winter, I'm contemplating where it is that I want to go for this year, but I'm contemplating either South Africa or Morocco. So I've got complete time and location freedom. I've got an uncapped income ceiling because of the scalable products that I've built. And so the more online presence that I build, the more people I can share my message with and the more people that can come into my world. So it's a complete different reality. And in terms of the financial side of the business, and you mentioned that sort of month-to-month paycheck where, one day you might walk into work and that paycheck suddenly gets cut off, right? It's not there. How do you feel about the security of business income now that's coming in? Super secure, because I've built that solid recurring revenue through my scalable products. It means that there's already a good amount of money coming in before I've started the month, which is very different from the sales mindset that I used to have of every time. Obviously, this is different to what's received in your bank from the end of the month. But in sales, even if you'd had a really good month the month before, you still started from zero the next month. So you were constantly in strife mode and constantly in like fight. Whereas now I've built income that's going well into 2026. And so that brings you a level of peace. You're not in that sort of like fight or flight mode all of the time. And so everything on top of that is just bonus. It's all to play for. So it's very peace, relaxing, like, you're doing good in the world. And also you've built a level of freedom that gives you total security. So yeah, brings you a lot of peace and happiness and choice, which I think is a luxury. The freedom to know that you can go anywhere. And also if you need to come back suddenly, or there's an emergency, or that, you need to go do something, that you can, you don't need to ask anybody's permission for it or get a loan for it, like, you're good. So I think that's a really good self-sufficient knowledge to have. So final question for you, Sarah, put you on the spot here quickly. If someone listening now is earning under £100,000 a year and they want to scale fast, what's the single first step that you would ask them to do within the next week?
get your high ticket offer, what is your most expensive product, and go speak to people about it. I'm not just talking about post on social media. I'm saying, how many actual sales conversations have you had in the last week? Lots of people are like, things aren't working for me, or I'm not getting as much sales as I want to. And I'm like, how many people have you actually spoken to about this offer specifically? How many money-making activities have you done? How many emails have you sent? How many DMs have you sent? Have you gone live to talk about your offer? How many actual conversations have you had? So I think start with whatever your highest price thing is, because especially when you're looking to build income, that's going to be the easiest way to X rather than doing your mid or low ticket offer. And then spend as much time as you can doing sales-based activities, not just marketing, not just awareness, but actual closing conversations.
Make it a must, right? Have some accountability. Maybe say to someone, right, you're going to hold me accountable. I'm going to speak to 10 people or 20 people, and you've got to make sure that I do that.
Exactly. Think about the 6 degrees of separation. Your next client is only one conversation away from you at any time.
Amazing. It's been very good speaking with you, Sarah. Thank you for sharing everything. And I know you've got more to share as well, which is very kind of you. So a free content matrix, tell us about that, and also some video training, which our listeners can get hold of for free.
Yeah. So the content matrix, my unlimited content matrix, is something that I created for people who struggle to think about how to create high quality content at speed and at volume. So some of my clients were saying, like, I can't think of a good thing, can't think of a good hook, or how do you create just good content so consistently? And I was like, because I've got a fallback system. Like, I never run out of content ideas. And so I put this into a matrix that your listeners can go use, where there's unlimited amounts of things that they can use, that they can put into their own business, customize it themselves so that they never run out of things to be talking about that can help sell their services. So that's the content matrix. That'll help you all with your marketing, regardless of what platform you use it on. And then the video training is called How to Get Premium Clients Online. So this will be especially valuable for those of you who are selling high ticket offers or selling into a premium audience. And that shows you what it is that premium buyers especially are really looking for, so that you can go create that thing and make sure that whether it's your sales page, whether it's your content, is answering those core things that those people are looking for, getting a real understanding of who your high ticket buyer is so that you can create in that way. And so that it'll be easier to bring those, whether it's 4-figure, whether it's 5-figure clients, into your world with zero sales objections.
Amazing. And if anyone would like to find out more about She Scales or follow you online, where's the best place to go?
Instagram is the best place. So Sarah Buckland Coaching, but you can also find me on LinkedIn as well, or on my website.
Sarah, thanks for being a great guest on Wealth Talk today.
Thank you so much. I've super enjoyed it.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget that we are constantly updating our resources inside the Wealth Builders membership site to help you create, build, and protect your wealth. Head over to wealthbuilders.co.uk/membership right now for free access. That's wealthbuilders.co.uk/membership.